If you're someone who really, really, really wants to take it and own it, your identity, it really is about stepping into your power. And when I talk about your power, I talk about the power of authenticity because you being authentic is your power. You saying yes to you knowing what you want, you staying true to what you believe in. That is your power. And that is the power of authenticity because it's you saying yes to you. What does it mean to live unapologetically queer? It means that you get to define life on your terms. You get to break the chains, redefine those beliefs that weren't yours, and really look at life and say, this is how I see it, how I believe I should live it, and I'm going to live it that way. Welcome to the Queer Quest podcast, your beacon of light and sprinkle of glitter in the queer community. I'm your host, Cristiano Green, CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for queer individuals. And together, we're embarking on a journey of transformation. Each week, we bring you a new training topic or connecting with visionary queer leaders in healing and coaching, diving deep into conversations that inspire growth, celebrate diversity, and empower you to live authentically. So wherever you are, settle in and let's get ready to unlock the vibrant potential within. This is where your quest begins. Hello, all you fabulous souls, and welcome to another episode of the Queer Quest podcast. I'm your host, Cristiano Green, the CEO of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for people in the queer community. So this episode of the Queer Quest podcast is an episode that's just got me in it. We haven't got any special guests today. And the reason for that is because I wanted to talk about something that I think is vital. It's actually one of the 12 areas on the queer wellness wheel of life. And we're talking about identity. And specifically for people in the queer community, we're talking about queer self-identity. Now, when we think of the concept of identity, it's a living, breathing, evolving concept because who we are and how we identify is ever changing and ever evolving as we go through life, as we go through all of the different experiences that we have in life. And of course, for people in the queer community, our queer identity is something that is, of course, very important to us and something that can ebb and flow because for queer people, we go through the process at some point in our life, or most of us do, where we come to the place of acceptance in who we are, especially when it comes around to our sexuality, our gender, that area. And of course, we know that as we go through life and as we evolve, sometimes we ebb and flow with that. So sometimes we're super happy with where we're at, with our identity, and maybe, something in life changes. Maybe we move to a new job, a new career, and we have to then kind of out all over again because as we know, when we meet new people, almost every single time, you have this whole kind of like, who are you kind of thing, new people. And oftentimes, especially for people who are queer, people may see you and assume something, or they'll ask you, or you feel like you have to tell people, or whatever it is. Everyone how they identify and how they express it and explain it, totally out to them. But I think most people are going to understand what I'm talking about when I say that, like, you meet new people, and sometimes you go through this ebb and flow of like, how are they gonna react? Is this going to affect my position here at the company? Will they like me? Will they have a problem with me? Because that is a common, unfortunate part of being in the queer community within the society that we live in. Now, we're in 2025 right now. And of course, it would be great to say that that was no longer a problem. And in certain places, most people just don't get a shit. They will, they will live life and they'll say, you do you, boo. And sometimes they'll be super supportive of you and super happy for you. And it'll be just that. And that's fantastic. But for most places in the world, that's not always the case for every single person that you interact with in life. Now, I've got to a place where it doesn't bother me. If you like me, if you don't like me, I ain't bothered too much because I know that I like who I am. I know that the people that I serve and the clients that I have, they love me. or what I'm doing for them and supporting them. I've got my partner, I've got my friends, I've got my family, and I've got great relationships with those. So I'm not someone who needs to be liked and loved by every single person. And so, like I said, if someone does, great. If someone doesn't, great. It doesn't do too much differently to me because I'm not out there looking for other people's approval. So when I'm talking about identity, especially when it comes to queer identity, I'm more talking about the concept that we go through as human beings and the experiences we have and they evolve. Because I can tell you, me from 20 years ago, me from 10 years ago, me from 5 years ago, me from 3 months ago, I am different. I am evolving. Of course, there's a lot of similarities in some of those periods, but there's a lot of shifts and changes where almost, like, for example, the 20-year ago run, I wouldn't even recognize they walk down the street because I feel that that was me prior to coming out and accepting myself. I was, 18 at the time. I definitely wasn't, happy within my skin. I definitely cared too much about what everyone else did. But to go through the process and to go through my own journey of identity, I had to shed a lot of that layer and go through the process for sure. So what am I trying to get at is that where the person that we are is often evolving. How we identify, how we see life, especially how we see ourselves as queer people, it shifts, it ebbs, it flows. And for you, you're probably going to recognize that your experiences shape you, especially the experiences that you have, especially when you give them the meaning, you tell the stories about what that experience has done for your life. That'll shape your identity. And of course, we all know that how we feel in the moment about a certain situation can vary drastically, as time goes by, as you evolve, as you see things differently, as you become more self aware. And you start to realize that some of those experiences that weren't in the moment really quite difficult or quite traumatic, as you've worked through them, you realize that like they're just part of your journey and they have shaped you, but they don't define you. You define you. That is what we're talking about when we talk about identity as a living, evolving concept. We get to define who we are, whether that's on the queer level, whether that's on a, rather look at the intersection of queerness and race and culture and your personal history and all of that stuff, right? That all intertwines into your self identity, right? And so how society sees you, the expectations they put on you. They often force you, to try to conform to certain standards. And we've had to try to break free from those standards. All of that shapes who we are. And the more we get to break free from how other people expect us to be, expect us to live, whether that's your family, your friends, your colleagues, society, whatever it is, when you break free and you get to define yourself and really start to say, all these people, some of them I care about, some of them I don't, but I also care about me more and I want to live my life in a way that feels right for me. And so you might have your opinion that's good for you from your own experiences, but my opinion's different because I've been to a whole lot of different things. I see the world differently. We can all understand queer people will see the world differently to non-queer people because we've had to go through the experience of being queer. The same way that someone who is from, say, African American descent is going to see the world differently to someone who is of Caucasian descent because of different experiences. You've been treated differently by different people, good, bad, and ugly, right? So it doesn't matter on your sexuality, your gender, your race, your culture, the way you lived, all of those things, the language that you were that you were taught, the culture you were brought up in, it does shape you. And so people who are outside of you and also outside of those experiences will have a different version of reality. Now, their reality is great, that's theirs, and it's their truth. And your reality is yours. And on one you should be focused on is your reality, your identity, your self-identity, your queer self-identity, right? So when we get to that level, we're talking about it being an evolution, we get to redefine how we see life. What is success to me? What is queer excellence to me? What is everything beyond the heteronormative cisgender standards, right? Because again, it depends where you are in your journey of queerness and what's important to you. You might be, on the spectrum and of sexuality, on the spectrum of gender. Now, some of you might just be on one. You might say yourself, look, in this area, I see everything as binary. I hope that you wouldn't, as a queer person, be able to see things a bit differently because you understand that, especially when it comes to sexuality, it's not black and white. So the opposite say the same thing would be for gender. But I know there are people out there who may have that opinion, and you know what? That's your reality. That's your identity. That's how you see it. As long as you don't put that onto someone else who sees it differently, it's totally fine for you to see it the way you want to see it, right? I'm not here to change your mind. I'm here to just open it and help you understand the different concepts, especially when it comes to our own self identity as well. So, you should really look back on with people over history, right? We've often been the people who, if there's not a lane for us, we're creating it. We're forging the path, whether that's in art, that's activism, in business, in life, in relationships, right? The way that we see things culturally, it is, when you look at pop culture, you see that a lot of artists out there tape on a lot of stuff that's from the queer community and they make it mainstream, which is great, that then shining a light on it. But sometimes they're also taking it as their own, when in fact it was never theirs to begin with. They've just seen it and they now expressed it. So queerness and queer culture is across pop culture everywhere, right? We all see it, we all know it. I don't need to get examples of it. It's obvious, right? Especially if you're out there living authentically and you're into pop culture. You see all of the big acts, so many heteronormative artists are campus hell or on that spectrum of looking, you know, gay or metrosexual or whatever people want to call, to define it. Because again, sometimes they see that as a way of getting new fans, because a lot of people in the queer community, if you're a fan of, if you're a queer artist, in a sense, like what I mean, like you may not be queer, but like people love you, then you are adored and you have a fan base, because here people, they go hard for the people that they love, especially when it comes to, art, like music and movies and all that stuff, right? Like they love that. We love that. I know I do. And I know that people I speak to, like, especially when you talk about like pop stars, like people love, they've got their Beyonce fans, they've got Mariah Carey, you've got Britney Spears, right? There's so many of them, right? We all know that they're like divas, pop divas like that's big. And a lot of them, like I said, the people that really push the needle forward in growing these people's fan bases is actually the queer community, right? And if you were loved by the queer people, then you've really made it. It is kind of how the world sees it as well, and like that as well. So our identity is ever evolving. Queerness in general is ever evolving. So if I'm talking about identity, I'm talking about also the identity of the queer community as well. Because as you can tell over history, things have ebbed and flown, and we've had to go through, you know, ups and downs when it comes to getting, equality and rights, and across the world it's very different. In cultures across the world, queer people are seen differently. And so again, all of this stuff comes into play how you see yourself, because also how you see the queer community affects how you see yourself as a queer person. Now, I know that there are many people out there who are, who hate the word queer. They're definitely, if you look at queer being anyone that's LGBTQIA plus, that's how I see it, but it's also a deeper spiritual journey of being queer, like the experience of growing up as a gay person or someone who is on the spectrum or, non-binary, transgender, right? That's just different experience. But I try to say growing up queer in that bucket is like, it's a whole experience, a spiritual experience, and it affects your identity, right? But there are a lot of people who hate the word queer because maybe back in the time where they were growing up, they heard it as a derogatory thing, and they just can't get that out of their mind that it was a negative. Well, for me, I see it completely differently. And I guess I understand people who don't like it, but I just want, if we're using it in that sense, you get the understanding of what I'm trying to talk about, because it's an evolution, right? I feel like as the, LGBT community evolves, I'm talking about like it being like queerness evolves. It's almost like an essence, an energy, and it evolves as well. And so when that evolves and you see it differently, you see yourself differently as well, because you're seeing shifts and changes in the way that society treats you as a human being, as a queer person. And so, again, that affects your identity and that shapes you. And again, every experience that you continue to have will do the same way as well. So, when we're talking about this, how do we go about, say, breaking the chains of, say, internalized bias when it comes to maybe the negative sides that you see within yourself and how you identify, especially when it relates to your, your queerness? Because we talk about internalized homophobia, internalized transphobia, internalized queerphobia, gender phobia, whatever you want to class it as. It shapes our self-perception of who we are. The fear of being too much or the fear of being not enough. And how do we unlearn all these beliefs that are really limiting us and work on reclaiming our own personal power? So we're talking about undoing some of the stuff that's happened to us that's allowed us to define ourselves a certain way. Because oftentimes as well, when we talk about identity, that's all built up from a lot of the beliefs that we have about life and about who we are. And if you've grown up in a world where you were not accepted for who you are because of society, because of your family, then you might have limiting beliefs on yourself, especially when it comes to your queer self identity. And so, what we need to do if we want to overcome those and maybe move forward and grow and heal and to start seeing things differently, is we need to really first be aware of what are the beliefs that we hold. Now, one of the best ways that you can do this is now, I bet you're the type of person that when you meet someone, you have a certain story that you tell. So someone starts, give me the story of Jessica, give me the story of Barry, whatever it is. You might say, look here, and you might tell them your experience. And from those experiences, there'll be a lot of underlying beliefs that you have within that story, you know? So if you're someone who has your story and you kind of know that you say this and you say it to every person that you need, that's kind of like your thing. I know I've been there, I've done that. And of course, I still do, and it evolves as well. But underlying though, it's evolved because I've shifted some of the beliefs. So if you're someone, I would implore you to maybe write down the story that you tell people. And then when you're looking at the story, go, what are the beliefs that are in your story that make me believe this to be my story? And you might see that there'll be some that are good and there'll be some that are really limiting you. Like, I came from this certain background. I grew up in this time, and that's why I've been able to do X, Y, Z. Or I really wish I could do that, but because of these reasons, I can't do it. And oftentimes, like I said, there'll be your limiting beliefs. So if you're someone who really wants to uncover what those beliefs are that are limiting you so that you can break the chains of that internalized bias, write your story down and really dissect it piece by piece. That will help you to really understand it. Then if you want to do the work of, actually overcoming and shifting those beliefs to be more positive and more empowering, you might need some deeper help because it's usually someone else who can support you in actually reframing the belief or changing the belief. By doing that, sometimes when you actually are aware of these beliefs and you look at them on paper and you see them differently, you will start to see them differently outside of that, meaning that you'll go, oh my God, like, why do I believe that? Where did that come from? Oh, okay. It came from them, and that was never mine. That was something that someone told me. Maybe my family would say this all the time, and I took it on as my truth. But in reality, as a queer person, what you get to do is you get to redefine how you see life. So by redefining how you see life, that means you go back and you look at all the things that have been given to you, maybe warranted, maybe unwarranted, and say, that no longer serves me. That is no longer who I am. So how do I shift it? How do I change that? That's what I do for so many of my clients. Especially at QueerQuest, when we run our monthly workshops, every single month, part of QueerQuest Pro, we go into one of each of the different 12 areas of the queer wellness wheel of life. And, this month that we're running it, we're going into the area of emotional wellness and mental health. Last month, we actually did something on queer self-identity. So we had a 2-hour workshop and we were able to help people redefine themselves and shift some of those limiting beliefs. Now, this month, again, it's about mindset and mental health and emotional wellness. And of course, we'll be doing the same thing. We're going to be looking at those areas and doing that. And so throughout the year, we're going to continue on all of the other areas, the physical, the spiritual, the career, the finances, your relationships, your environment, all of the stuff that we have over the year, which is really, really cool. So again, if you're someone who wants to unlearn nice, maybe finding someone who can support you on the journey, whether that's QueerQuest, whether it's someone else, whatever it is, find something that's really good for you.
Are you ready to embark on a journey of transformation that's uniquely yours? Welcome to QueerQuest, the world's first and best personal development platform created by and for the queer community. Imagine a space where your authenticity isn't just accepted, it's celebrated. A place where you can grow, learn, and thrive alongside a vibrant community that understands you. At QueerQuest, we're more than just a platform. We're a family. Connect with like-minded individuals, share your stories, and empower each other to reach new heights. Our tailored courses are designed to address the unique experiences of the queer community, from self-love and confidence building to career advancement and beyond. We've got you covered. It's time to step into your power and transform your journey. Join us today at courses.queerquest.vip, see what we're all about, and sign up to begin your quest.
If you're someone who really, really, really wants to take it and own it, your identity, it really is about stepping into your power. And when I talk about your power, I talk about the power of authenticity, because you being authentic is your power. You saying yes to you knowing what you want, you staying true to what you believe in. That is your power. And that is the power of authenticity, because it's you saying yes to you. What does it mean to live unapologetically queer? It means that you get to define life on your terms. You get to break the chains, redefine those beliefs that weren't yours, and really look at life and say, this is how I see it, how I believe I should live it, and I'm going to live it that way. And yes, some people will accept it, some people won't. But it's about getting to a place of saying, good if you do, good if you don't. But this is my life to live, and I'm going to live it the way that feels right for me as a queer person, as a human being, and I'm going to be as authentic as I possibly can. Because the truth is the cost of authenticity is losing people who hold you back. It's changing relationships. Maybe like your family relationships have been defined this way. But when you live authentically, those will shift and they will evolve, as we all do in life. And the cost of authenticity is also finding your true self. I think that's pretty much worth every single penny of becoming authentic as well. Now, if I am to say to you, like, I want to become more authentic, how do I do that? I would ask yourself this question. What part of myself am I holding back, and what? Just write that on a piece of paper and then just allow yourself to flow, and whatever comes through, it'll come through, and you will start to see that there's an area that you're not shining authentically as much as possible. Now, I do this on a regular basis because, again, we evolve when we get to a certain place, and sometimes we just get to a place of complicitness where we think we're living life authentically, but we've evolved, and so we need to step up as well, because me here authentically, maybe my level 10 today, in 6 months' time, or even a month's time, or 3 months' time, whatever it is, my level 10 today might be a level 5, and I need to level up. So you can always see that as you go through life, your experience shape you, they define you, some good, some bad. Again, you need to be able to assess which of the bad you can take away and redefine that to be more empowering. And then when you do that, you step up and become more authentic because you're living true to who you are. So really, if you're a queer person and you want to go from the shadows to the spotlight, and when I say spotlight, I'm talking about being the star of your life, because in reality, in some people's lives, they aren't the star of their life. They're a supporting act in someone else's. And if you can understand what that means, it is really powerful, because some people are living their life for other people. Meaning you might have a relationship or a family member or someone, and you're living in their dreams. and you're supporting them. And there's nothing wrong with saying supporting other people, because I think you should at some point really be able to give back and do things that feel right. But it should come from here, not from the shackles of feeling like I have to do that. I'm a people pleaser, whatever it is, you know? So if you want to go from being in the shadows to spotlight and being the star of your own show, what you need to be able to do is to own your narrative, own your queer narrative. Move from hiding or surviving and step into thriving. Step into a version of life that you have created for yourself that says, I get to do and be and have who I am and what I want from it. Because I'm living authentically. And that means I'm going out there and realizing that maybe this job that I've been in for 5, 10 years isn't fulfilling for me. Maybe it's maybe it's not supporting my overall vision of where I want to go. So maybe he needs to make some big changes. Or maybe they say that this person who's in my life has been there for such a long time, they just never support me in the way that feels good for me. And maybe I either need to say, look, you know what? It's been great, but I'm moving on. Or you have to have the conversation and say, look, if you want to be in my life, we need to work out how it's going to work for both of us. Because right now, I'm no longer going to be the supporting act in your movie. I'm going to be the star of my own. So these things are hard, right? But if you want to, again, move from the shadows to the spotlight, you need to step up and you need to own your narrative and learn to take up space without the fear of apology, because you don't need to apologize for who you are or where you've been or your experiences or how you see life or how you define it, because your identity is yours to own. So I'm going to leave you with something that I think is important for you to ask yourself is, what does queer excellence mean to you? What does my self-identity as a queer person mean to me? What is the importance of community and mentorship and embracing self-love mean to me? Because if you can start to ask yourself some of those key important questions, you're going to start to step forward into the version of you that you've probably always wanted to be. But maybe you've had some roadblocks. So I'll leave you with that. And I want you to say here that if this has been a good episode, I want you to like, I want you to share, I want you to review, I want you to subscribe, do all the things that feel good. When you do that, someone else out there who really needs to hear this episode is going to do that, because it works for the algorithm and does that. So if you can do that for me and for the other people who will need this, then that is one way that you can live authentically to yourself by saying, I love this, it really helped me, and I'm going to support this as well. Anyway, I will be back next week with another episode. But if you have any shares, any questions, you can comment below or you can reach out to me on social media, whether that's on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, whatever it is that you can contact people. Feel free to reach out. I get back to everyone. I love hearing from you and I love seeing the support that you give to the channel. But anyway, as I said, I will be back next week with another episode of the Queer Quest podcast. And until then, always remember that